Hello, Elite 8, and welcome to this week's episode of Gaz's Elite 8 Update. I'll be your host, as usual, Gareth Tuvey. A little bit different this week. Got someone else that's going to review the week that's coming. Preview, should I say. I'll review what's happened during the week. Obviously, we haven't played during this week, but there was a weekend worth of games. I will look at them, look at any team changes, and we'll go from there. So let's get started on last week, which was the Prestigia Homosexuals versus Josh the Sash. Everyone's holding me to my Adam wanted to lose theory. It was just a comment. As Adam always says, and he's the one that keeps harping on this, everyone listens to Gaz too much, blah, 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 blah. Listen to me, do what you want. I don't care. This is just my thoughts, my take and whatnot. Adam, you did lose though, so maybe that played on you a little bit too much. Tom Mitchell started off well for you, the 122. But then it was some pretty... Loston was good on 99. Devon Smith was okay. Kennedy was better than projected. Taranto did well for you. Williams was disappointing. Tabernar probably had his worst game for the last 5 weeks when you just brought him in. Setterfield solid as usual. Maynard's dropped off a little bit in the last month. And Greenwood, great again. Dumont a little bit, But John just too good. McGrath 124. I'll touch on McGrath in a little bit. Darcy Parish he got his projected. Guthrie good again for you. Jack Stephen no good. I think he might be injured and out for a little bit now. Boak 116. Brayshaw 115. Marshall 129, which was good for you. Ed Kerno good in that week. And Atlee good for you. But John just too strong. Beating by quite a little bit in the end. Just one player, I guess, was really the difference. And in the other game, the knockout, the one that was probably the most important, Tom played Mitch. Now, I said last week that if Mitch was to be successful, that he would be my smoky. And Mitch was successful. Zach Merritt started the week off fantastic for Tom, but the rest just wasn't... I guess Whitfield did very well for you. Kelly's injury didn't help you. Taylor Adams, the new recruit, did pretty well. Better than, say, what Canigilo would have done for you. Pendlebury, disappointing for his standards, but just not good enough with Mitch starting off the week with Danaher 103 on his bench, which rotated onto his field, which nearly was the difference for him. Tim Kelly 118, Duggan 117, Dangerfield 132, Caleb Daniel 110, and they were his first, 5 players. So that's a good start for that week for Tom, for Mitch. I don't know why I keep saying that. But yeah, he was pretty solid across the board. Had a 42 in Rosie. Oliver 134, solid as always. Wilkie, and yeah. So that's the review from last week. You'll see that Tom is now out of the finals, as I'm sure you're all aware. Adam plays Mitch this week, and that will be reviewed by me and my special guests in a moment. Just like to look at some of the inclusions that happened overnight. I'm recording this now, this morning, and the review was recorded last night, so there might be a few changes in that. So go back in time before we did look at that. John since then has dropped McGrath. What a pity, McGrath. Oh, McGrath. That news last week, nothing more made me happier than seeing him out. John's added Brayshaw, McGrath, and Mitch has since added Wiedemann into his team. Got rid of Wiedemann for Liam Ryan. So they're the only changes as of midday Saturday morning. I've got a good good, I think, goes for about 25 minutes of me and my guest speaking. But without further ado, over to me and Henners. Welcome, Henners, to the good. Welcome on the show. It's been a little while in the making. Been trying to get everyone on as much as I can, and you put your hand up a few weeks ago, and I thought, what a better time when we're both not in finals. So here we go.
I love it. It's a good time of year. It's obviously September. It's springtime. This is normally when I'm running around and doing my finest work at Preston.
As I can see in the background.
Wow, that's just memories from a few years ago, really.
Yeah.
It was an A-grade grand final that Tom was not involved in. So there you go.
I actually drove past, is it Moore Park? Where AJ Moore Park or something where West Preston play? No.
Yeah, yes.
I drove past
near the lake.
It's looking nice and green now that no one's playing on it.
Yeah. And been a long time since Tom's played there, obviously relegating himself to Division 3 football.
Yep.
And early whispers maybe not making seniors next year and just running around in the Magoos.
Oh, wow.
Yes, won't that be interesting? Yeah. Still in a long sleeve, though. Very soft.
Yeah, very soft. Well, that's just Tom, really. So soft. Couldn't get the biscuits last week and just soft all around. He should just call – well, I reckon if he had his team name again, he'd call them the long sleeves.
Something that resembles soft.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anyway.
But I'm not on here just to pot Tom.
Yep. This is a new segment.
I've badgered you for a little while to get me on this.
Yep.
And I've done it under the guise of reviewing the finals games. I thought I'll do a little bit of research, have a look at the teams and everything. But before that, I've got my own segment in a bit like Gaz Goes Gaga. Mate, happy days. Cheers to that, mate. So it's much like it's Gaz Goes Gaga, I've got Henny's Hysteria. So a little bit of a view back on the season.
Yep.
I just want to bring up a couple of sharp topics that have been lingering underneath and a little bit of talk about on the Whispers.
Yep.
But the first one, off the bat, completely unrelated to the Elite Eight, but Tom's leadership at the punt. We recently experienced such a social success last weekend, albeit not so fortunate for the actual financial coffers. In these tough times, we all could have done with a little bit of a rev up for the back pocket.
True.
But under his leadership, very, very poor. And then to just go and waste it on a nag midweek, I mean, it's just deplorable. And I catch up with Tom regularly. Each week we go for a little bit of a walk, take the kids out. I've heard whispers that his leadership is actually under review in his main punting group. And he put together last weekend purely as a practice run because he's in such poor form.
Oh, is that why he didn't want to go around again this week? Because he had his punters club, picking and choosing who he wants to bet with.
That's probably correct. So I reckon he drops players every week in his punting group. So I reckon he's probably getting dropped next time around.
There you go. Wow, it all comes out.
The second one, mate, big one, big topic. It's been brewing, just simmering underneath the surface all year. I've made some initial inquiries into Supercoach head office. They've got back to me. Now, they're playing a straight bat, much the same as what Dan Andrews does, but I reached out just to ask about the possible integrity breaches around some Geelong moves this season and some players getting picked up, etc. Yes, it has been. It's been there all year, just simmering. And the official response I've got back for them is that they've put in together a due process. It's at arm's length. And the royal commission that they've set up will be being ran by a judge outside of their jurisdiction. And they'll follow through with any outcome that comes through. And they hold themselves fully accountable for any breaches that have been found.
I like it.
The judge and the panel of that, I do hear, is made up of Gary Rowan in a white T-shirt, Chris Scott in a white T-shirt, and also Tom Hawkins in a white T-shirt. So I'm not sure how much of a result we're going to get, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. And then, look, thirdly, mate, the biggest one, and this is a little bit of, it's actually a lot of a stab at you, mate. Me as the second buy all year. Now, I've weaseled my way onto this astounding podcast And it's got nothing to do with reviewing the finals, mate. It's all about this. Me as the second bye. This has just been horrendous. I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of things.
Sure.
Firstly, the first half of the year, I'll cop it. It wasn't my best.
Yep. I'll let you speak.
Wasn't my best performance. Yeah. Wasn't my best performance. Quite rubbish. And probably deserved it first half of the year. But second half of the year, geez, did I come home with a sail. Wow. It was the talk of the Elite Eight the whole second half of the season. Over the second half of the year, I've finished up equal third on the ladder, if you just look at the second half of the year. Now, much of us say that the first half's a warm-up and the second half is all that counts, albeit I left my run far too late. Secondly, I've taken a really good scalp with Adam at round 12 and cost him a second chance, which I'll go into that a little bit later. But thirdly, how did Matt fly under the radar with the rabble that is the Barbecues Trelaw? Absolute, as Tino would say it, it's ferocious how he did not get more attention. Let me draw you to this one simple fact before I close out the hysteria that I've brought to the table. He has won 3 games for the season, 2 of which are the bye, and his only legitimate win for the entire season was against me way back in pre-COVID days in round 1. He has gone 12 and skip against legitimate teams for the rest of the season. Oh, mate, I've blown my lid. I've got nothing else really to say on that. But
look, you're right, fair argument. But I think by the time that I realised that Matt was that bad, he was so far down the ladder that it wasn't worth mentioning him. The early days, like you said, you struggled, which is fair, but you did come home. Like you're probably I don't know. Yeah, as you said, you were the 3rd highest team for the second half of the year. So all credit to you. But unfortunately, very much like Carlton, it's not just one half. You need to win a game.
I was very disappointed. I sat on my team too long. I've already bought the syllabus for the draft prospects for 2021. It'll be a long pre-season, but I'm fully committed to season 2021, which will be good.
Yeah. Oh, well done on your second half. I do apologise for calling you the bye early. Maybe if I'd called Matt the bye earlier, he would have come home better and I would have finished on the bottom because I was shocking the second half of the year.
You were, mate. It was a good scalp I got there. I got you and Adam. I was very happy about that.
Yeah,
but don't ever apologise, mate. Stay true to your guns.
Well, you were the bye early. I'm not apologising for you being the bye because you were.
No, fair enough.
But Matt was probably the bye all year.
Definitely, 100%. The buys make him look good. Again, it's this asterisk situation with the buys.
Are you a believer of an asterisk season?
100%. Yeah, especially if it's John.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard rumblings, and this might be something you've already touched on or you will be, but I've heard rumblings that there may not be a buy next season if a certain people can pay their fair dues.
Yes, I did hear about this. Potential former member who was on a 2-year ban has done his 1 year and may be coming back in, buying himself back in. So,
geez, it'd be a hefty cost.
Remove the buy, and we may have a fairer season and well, it'll depend. If Matt's in this season again, we'll still have a buy, but at least we won't have a legitimate buy.
That's correct. That's correct. And at least if the former member comes back in, it won't be a finals threat anyway. So
that's true. That is true.
Well, mate, that's I feel a lot better. I've gotten that off my chest.
Yep.
I'm a lot more relaxed now. I can go into next season being quite confident now.
Beautiful.
Should we review the finals? What I've properly come on here for?
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, you sort of hit me in a bit of a curveball there. Wasn't expecting that at all. So, yeah, well done to you.
Mate, it's let's have a look at it. We've got semi-final number 1. We've got Dan taking on John. Look, it's a bit of a dead rubber. It's a second chance for both of them. Dan did well having the rest last week. Look, I think it's going to be one that's pointless. No one's really going to watch it this week on the thread. All the talk will be around the other semi-final.
Yeah.
The last time they met was way back in round 6. John lost. got touched up by about 200 points to Dan. Arguably, probably his only tough game for the season. I think you'd back that up.
Yep.
And he lost it. So I think that really sums him up. A little bit of a look at their teams. Sort of just trawled back through and had a look and saw which players are different for the season. So going into this round, you've got Dan since that game, pretty active since then. He was active nearly every week, I reckon, on the trade. He's got nothing to do up in Queensland.
He says he doesn't do Supercoach, but that's all he does.
That's for rubbish. He's sitting around there with the... I'll touch on it in a second too, because there's been some late moves. But he's picked up Stephen May since that game. He made the massive trade with Jess in round 11 to bring in Lockie Hunter, which I think that's a blessing for him. He's done well there. Also, he's gotten on big boy Ben McAvoy, made some tactical changes with him. And then this week, only literally hours ago and yesterday, he's bought in Zeeble on the early news. He's up there just sitting there waiting
Probably
just for the
spent
team.
lattes with him and realised he's available.
I reckon that's the case. He's just got the early whispers up there. It's unfair. Again, though, as Supercoach said, they'll be fully accountable for what the Royal Commission outcome has, and we'll leave it at that. But yes, he's brought in Zeeble. And then the other big move, which if this doesn't need some sort of evidence backed up behind it, he's brought in Dalhouse. He's now dropped Dalhouse to bring in Gary Rowan. If this doesn't have some sort of stink coming...
They share T-shirts. They know...
If there wasn't something brewing all week...
Mate, I reckon he's been here giving him a better massage than he's been giving Dalhouse. I don't know. There's something in there.
100%. And you've got to remember, this goes back to Dalhouse getting picked up a good couple of weeks before he was due to come back in.
Well, no, he got picked up the week he was due to come back in, but media was reporting he was still out for another 2 to 3.
Well, there you go. See, there's so much insider information going on up at the Gold Coast. It's ridiculous. But look, this is these are the parameters. Obviously, everything's within the rules. But to be fair, he's playing John, so it's kind of you've got to cheat as much as you can, I suppose. And
I will touch on one thing. I don't know if have you got a full analysis of John's side?
No, go for it, mate. I've just got a few ins from since. Let me run through the ins that John brought in since they last played. Brought in Jack Stephen and Sean Atley. They're ins since they last played. He picked up Ablett. You touched on this last week in your podcast, I believe, but he just has refused to pay attention to the media and listen to what's going on. But that's his own fault. And gotten on Brian Myers and Caulfield. So there are a couple of changes.
I'd like to touch on the trade of the year that brought in Andrew McGrath.
Yes.
And the devastating news that happened last week that he's done for the year.
I did see you posted that.
It's gut-wrenching. I feel for John. I actually feel for him.
Which that says a lot coming from you because he's not your biggest fan in the Elite Eight, fair to say.
Eat a dick, John.
I was watching the thread and I did like your little post and it got no nibble either. He knows. Deep down, I think it's really hurting.
Oh, he's hurting. And the fact that he's playing against the team he traded with in this final without McGrath.
100%. I think it's just karma coming around to bite him in the ass.
Watch Dunkley put up 150 or something and no McGrath.
Yeah. Hunter, another big that was a big trade by Dan. He'll score well.
Yep.
And I just think this will just be a real wake-up call for John, really. And that probably leads me into this. I'm tipping Dan all the way in this game.
Oh, yeah. I can't see in any form that John can win. As much as I joke about McGrath, that's a huge loss to John's team.
Yeah, and I mean,
Essendon players.
Dan's boys they're coming off a rest. They'll be fresh. John, he had a bit of a walkover last week with Adam, just struggled with the buys, but I really do believe that John will get touched up. And I think quite comprehensively, Dan's had a real sniff at a few big scores this year. And I think this will be another one where Dan goes really big. And I'd just like to add as well, though, is that this, I think, will really come down to the Geelong game. They've both got a handful of Geelong players in their lineups. And it'll just be one where Dan's sitting on the bench, twiddling his thumbs once the game starts. just watching his players absolutely rack up Supercoach points.
Yep. There you go.
And I do reckon that if Dan does have a pre-match rub or something with any of John's players that are in the Supercoach team, they won't be getting the full treatment.
No, I agree. Couldn't agree more. Like Tom Hawkins will be fresh as a bloody whatever you want to call it. He'll be running like a stallion. Gary Rowland will be flat out just running quicker than you've ever seen him. And then you'll have all of John's players just running backwards because they can't run forwards because they're tight everywhere they need to be.
100%. So I think, I'm with Dan. You're obviously backing him in as well. So that's, again, John, he'll go into next week and go into the preliminary final, really licking his wounds, I reckon.
Yep, I agree.
That brings us on to semi-final number 2. This is the one that'll have just the banter going all, I think. Yeah, you've got the Prestigia Homosexuals taking on Hogan's Cousins.
Yep.
Look, last time these two teams met, round 5, Adam knocked him off 15-30 to 14-17. So 2 very poor scores for both these teams that have been good outfits all year.
Yep.
Some big changes. There's a lot of work on the free agency from both these teams all season.
Yep. And some big changes
Adam,
as well.
Yeah, they've both gotten on it. Round 5, Adam finally took your advice and got on Dumont, brought in Moore, and also brought in Wiedering, which I'll touch on later on.
Yep.
That round 5 was the week he played Mitch, and he made 5 trades that week, and I think it really got his season going in the right direction.
Yep, I agree with that.
Round 9, got on big McInerney up north. Obviously realised he needed to fill that ruck spot.
Yep.
Another good trade by him. And then round 10, this was where the season really started to bolster up. Round 10, he made the trade with Matt. Now, look, it's fair to say this trade has not worked for either of them. We know how it went. Unfortunately, Adams got Mitchell and Sicily. Sicily burnt him and injured himself. Mitchell's really gone to shit after getting in the Prestigia Homosexuals jersey and much preferred playing at the Trelaws. He's also brought in Witherden since that and jumped on Kennedy. He's brought him in. Setterfield got on him as well after Setterfield had played about half a dozen teams this season. And then last round of the season with his bye, got on Smith and Barras, and then picked up Hebel.
Good pickup. I just want
to make one note who's now out of Adam's side. I think that you're passionate about this, man. I was very passionate. He was my last pick last season. Strong with him, but Gibbons, he's finally started to prove himself as an AFL footballer. And unfortunately, in Supercoach world, this year he's just been Adam's little bitch.
Yep.
Just to give you a quick rundown of how Adam has treated him so poorly this season. Gibbons, into the Prestigia Homosexuals round 7. Out, round 7. In, round 8. Back out again, round 9. Fair stint on the Pine. Come back in, round 14. Absolutely cocked block for a final, and then out again this game.
Well, to be fair, he did get dropped. He didn't play last night. So that's probably a little bit of, I don't mind that one. But look, I'd be looking to bring him in for the next game, potentially. I don't know what his forward situation's like.
Well, show somebody some respect. It doesn't matter who it is,
Exactly.
Either just commit one way or the other. You like him for the season or you don't.
To be fair, he's done that with another player in his so-called boy, Aish. Aish has been...
Well, yes, he picked him up in the draft, didn't he?
Yeah, drafted him and then has dropped him and picked him up 3 or 4 times. Like, just have some faith in your boys, I reckon. Either keep him or get rid of him.
100%. And look, if you're dropping somebody and then somebody else is not snatching them back up the week after, especially Mitch, if they've had a big score, then just stay off them.
Yep.
I mean, if the consensus says that the big boys up the top of the ladder aren't picking them up, then don't worry about them.
Yep, I agree. Which coming from 2 teams that didn't make finals, so. But yeah, I agree.
We can say this, mate. We've had our fun this season.
Yeah.
Look, and then Hogan's Cousins, also a lot of players in and out. We know what Mitch deals with week in, week out with how he treats some of his picks on the waiver wire each week. Menegola's come in, He's brought in Wiedemann as well. Laddams he got on. Sarah, a couple of good picks there early. I think they've done well second half of the year.
Yep.
Got on Monday. And then finals, this got on Duggan, Sinclair and Danaher, obviously to fill a lot of gaps that he had with buys and stuff.
Yep.
I would just say, though, with Mitch, and it's come up during the week, but it's one of those things that I think if you make a trade, it worked out well. He still rolled Tom, but if you make a trade, just check your team. I mean, there's guys in this Elite Eight that would absolutely be killing to play finals.
Yep.
But he just treats it with absolute disdain by, I'll make a trade and I'll just assume that Supercoach will know who I want on my side. Well, it would have been funny if he lost with 100 and something on the bench.
Yeah. So who's your tip for the week then?
Look, it hurts me. It pains me to say this because I love the bloke, but I really think the wheels have fallen off the Prestigia homosexual since I rolled him in round 12. He's lucky he had the bye the last round to give his guys a win, and he still didn't put up that great a score.
Has he won a game since round 12?
Well, he had the bye in round
13. Yeah, but that
13.
doesn't count. So he hasn't won a game since round 11.
That's correct. Yep.
Interesting.
So Tom rolled him, I rolled him, and the bye.
And then he lost to John last week.
Lost to John last week. I think he'll lose this week to Mitch.
And that's
I think he's just, the second half of the year, he's worried about the buys too much, and it's gotten in his head. So I'm backing in the Hogan's Cousins.
Yeah, well, I did say last week's episode that if Mitch was to beat Tom, that he would be my smoky for the flag. Yeah. So I'm also going to tip Mitch this week. I think it'll be a
one. What's that?
I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be give or take 50 points, but providing no injuries, I would be pretty confident that Mitch will take the cake.
I think as well, Mitch has been strong with like Laddams and Houston and a couple of poor players. Houston coming back in after his little mishap over there.
Laddams is eligible to play this week and wasn't selected, which is an interesting point because Adam has the other ruckman in Lysette, so that could favour Adam in that aspect.
Could do. But I think Laddams would be strong for him if Mitch gets through this week, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it'll be a very, very good game, John v. Mitch next week. It could be.
It will be. It will be. You brought that up. I'll make my tips now. I'll go through it. I think that John will get rolled next week by Mitch.
Okay, we're talking that far in advance. Yep, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm just going to go for it. Look, I've given you enough grief tonight. I'm not going to get an invite back onto this podcast, I don't think. So
it kind of sounds like you want your own podcast. You've sort of come in wanting to host it. I'm not sure I should have you again.
Henny Hysteria was just a 1 week special.
No, it's going to be a consistent thing. The second week of finals every year from now on.
I'll start my prep now. It's probably a fair chance because I don't think I'll play finals next year.
Well, look, with Fleety in there, we might even go to a top 6 next year.
Oh, well, anything to boost my chances.
Well, I don't know. I've just run that. I haven't spoken with the commissioner or anything, but that was just my thoughts just then. It could be a potential, but I don't know. I don't mind the top 5 system. I like it.
Yeah, I like it as well. It works well.
The good from the bad, halfway down the middle.
And we don't want to celebrate mediocrity. If you're not good enough to make the top half of the draw in a top 10 comp, you don't deserve finals.
Yep.
But yeah, look, I think Mitch a little bit on you. I think he's been the smoky the second half of the year. He's been able to pick himself up, and I think he'll roll John and into the grand final for Dan versus Mitch. I think I'll leave my tip for the grand final. I'm sure it'll obviously a lot to play out between now and then.
Yep. What I might do something special for grand final week. I might try and get some wise words from multiple teams leading into that game, and we'll just jam them all together and make it a exciting week.
I like that.
And that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I like your idea of getting a little bit of a grand final preview with both head coaches. That'll go down well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they're.
I think you just have to time it. you'll just have to time it with Abigail sleeping though, because it's hard to get onto Mitch. He's in his own little world.
Wow, you heard it there. Henners has declared that Mitch will make the grand final. Hasn't said against who though. Well, I'm pretty sure we both think it'll be Dan, but hasn't declared that.
It'll definitely be Dan. Well, Dan rolls John this week. He's straight through. So the winner of their semi-final straight in.
Yep.
So yeah, that'll be. So look, it'll be a sad upset to John's season after he's done so well.
Happened to
and commiserations to the Preston GECO homosexuals.
Yep.
On that, will you be taking a week off work next week after Adam loses this week?
As in a Mad Monday sort of scenario?
No, just not to have to put up with chatting to Adam at the Tube Works about his loss.
Yeah, I might have to do that. I thought he was saying it was he, but yeah, I might have to. Try to hear every excuse possible, and he'll probably pop me about this as well, about me talking about it.
No, look, it's been great, Gaz. And just quickly, on behalf of all the loyal listeners this season and subscribers, and there's many outside of the Elite Eight core group, it's a big thank you. You've done a great job with this podcast all year. Thank you for having me on. It's sort of been one of the highlights of my year, really.
Oh, thank you very much. Hoping for next year I'll have a studio. I think I discussed that with you. Bit more of a permanent.
Yeah, definitely possible.
But we'll see how we go. See what COVID does to us and see where we end up next year.
No, 100%. It's been an absolute honour, Gazzy. You've done a great job. And look, let's see how this weekend's finals play out. It's going to be great viewing. That's one of the bonuses of not being in finals.
Exactly. Sit back and enjoy, can't you?
Yeah.
All right.
No, thank you very much, Gazzy. Thanks for having me on, mate. And good luck to all teams winning this weekend.
All the best, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Was that? I'm not sure if that was a special guest or Henna's potentially auditioning to be the host next year. Very well prepared, probably better than I've been prepared all year. But good on him. Had a dig at me, which was probably well deserved. I dig at everyone else every week, so good on him. But that's all I've got for this week's episode. I hope you enjoy it. Good that footy's still going. We'll see a Brisbane final as made news during the week in the actual AFL season. We also have Father's Day tomorrow, so happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Just a reminder that it is an asterisk season. So, yeah, that's all I've got. Best of luck to those competing. Give us a buzz whenever if you want to have a beer over the next few days, via Zoom, of course. But yeah, that's me over and out. Cheers, guys.